Well, the last time this guy visited the wind tunnel, well, there was still a shine on the Harley Earl Trophy. There was still so much talk about his incredible last lap victory in the biggest race for NASCAR, the Daytona 500. We're talking about Michael McDowell, who returns to the wind tunnel maybe a little bit more than 13 months after what arguably was the biggest win of his career. Forget whether it was in NASCAR or somewhere else. But Michael, it's good to have you back. But the afterglow of being a Daytona 500 champion, I've watched you all this season, and you and your team. It's as if that was the power boost that you needed to become even more competitive.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, our team has been on a nice, trajectory here the last, 3 years. And, every season we've been getting a little bit better, a little bit better. And then I think that, the win last year at Daytona was that kind of that catapult that took us to the next level and, gave everybody the confidence and the momentum. And then also too, the financial effects of it, being a small team, when you win a race of that caliber, and it puts you in the playoffs and it does all those things. It's helped us tremendously financially, where we can put more resources towards people and race cars. So it was definitely a momentum shift when we won the 500. And, this year coming into a new season with a new car, with the next gen car, it's been a pretty solid season altogether. I mean, we've had, 4 top 10s and been running, near the front, every weekend. So it's been good. I feel like we have a good program here at Front Row. You always want to be better and you always want to be contending for wins. But I think we're slowly getting to a place with this next gen car that we can put ourselves in the conversation.
I want to talk and concentrate a little bit on that next gen car and the effect that it's had on a team like Front Row. But I'm still interested because you were a guy that kind of knocked around until you got to Front Row. Things kind of turned around, and you, like a lot of drivers, decided to put in with a team that you felt you could contribute to their rise up the ladder. And I'm interested in just psychologically how that has affected your driving style.
Yeah, I think it's kind of just in my DNA. I've always been a part of building something, even from early on. I've always liked to be at the shop and working on things and being a part of it. So that's kind of just my own MO, and kind of the culture that I have. And so being at smaller teams and being sort of that lead guy that kind of helps lead that charge is something that I've enjoyed. And so that's always been a part of the process and the journey for me. And as far as what it does for me on the racetrack, I feel like when you build that bond with your guys and you're a part of it more than just showing up once or twice a week and, kind of checking the boxes, when you're, really involved in the process, you care about the people more and you want to see them do well and you want to do well and you got each other's back. And a lot of that has, a big ripple effect of how how you approach everything. And so it's one thing to be motivated, for your own goals, and we all are. But when you feel like, you want to do well because your guys have given you everything that they have and they've sacrificed time with their family and they're missing their kids, birthday parties on the weekends, and all that matters. And so you don't want to leave anything on the table when you know that, there's so many people sacrificing for you.
Now that we're 13, 14 months removed from the jubilation, and you can reflect back on it with your team, by the way, because it was their first Daytona 500 championship. What do you best remember now that you've gotten through the calendar, maybe a little bit more clarity? What's the biggest takeaway for you in Front Row from that night in February, now more than a year and a half ago?
Yeah, I think it'd be hard for me to pinpoint one thing. I feel like there's a lot of takeaways. When I think about it, I think about getting to the airport and seeing all my friends and family and what that meant. That was a big part of it. Being in tech at 6 a.m. with my guys and the sun coming up and realizing that we won the Daytona 500, it was an awesome moment that you'll never forget. there's so many of those, going back home to Phoenix and seeing, a lot of my friends and family there, and my dad and my brother, and so many people, growing up racing go-karts and formula cars that sacrificed so much for me to have those opportunities. So, throughout the year, there was those little moments that were just great reminders. And so, and then even at the shop, there's guys in our shop that, would come up and tell me, man, I've been in this sport 30 years. This is my first Daytona 500, and what it meant to them. And so the ripple effect is really big. I think that's the biggest thing that took me back, was how many people it affects and the ripple effect that it has in a positive way. And so that changes the mindset. Your mindset's always the win, but when you see what it actually does, it just ramps that level of intensity and importance of winning a race and what it means. So
enough looking in the rearview mirror. Let's project and let's take a look what's coming out through the windshield, because this 2022 campaign for you and Front Row has been on a steady upward trajectory. And I'm interested because there was so much talk, Michael, about the introduction of this next gen car that it was going to level the playing field. And you alluded to it earlier in our conversation here, that as a small privateer team, this single source concept has maybe actually made you even more competitive against the superpowers that sit atop the pinnacle. Well, can you give me a couple of specifics where you feel this next gen car has helped teams like you?
Yeah, for sure. I think that, to give a very generic summary to that is, in the last few years with the previous generation, I would say that, the top teams are making 200 or 300 pounds more downforce than we ever could. And they're holding 200 or 300 pounds more lead than our race cars could. So having a single source supplier on the chassis and the bodies and the suspension pieces and all the way down to the bolt length, right, is, we don't have mass manufacturing at Front Row Motorsports and 3D printing capabilities. And we're not able to, produce titanium parts like, the Penske's and Joe Gibbs and Hendricks of the world. So now we don't have to. And we're able to have a lot of the same bits and pieces. But Jack, you know the deal. Racing's all about people. And so those top teams have the top people, and they have more of them, and they're always going to be the best. You see it in the IndyCar series with, single suppliers. But I always look at, Dale Coyne and Rick Ware, and I go, man, on a given day, you give them a good strategy, a good driver, and they hit the setup right, they might win. And that was my hopes with the next gen car, is that on a given day, if we hit it right, we will have the bits and the pieces to put it together. And I think we're seeing that. Now, it's not going to change. Team Penske's going to win races. Hendrick's going to win races. Gibbs are going to win races, and they're going to win majority of their races throughout the season. But on that given Sunday where you hit it right and you get the strategy right and the pit stops go your way and you got your setup dialed in, you want to at least have a fighting chance. And I think the next gen car gives us that fighting chance.
You talk about a fighting chance. It just as an outsider watching it, Mike, it looks to me like it's far more rewarding for you as a driver to take a chance, maybe carry it in a little bit deeper, knowing that with a composite body, you're not going to have to come in and change a tire. But more importantly, I'm not saying that these cars are forgiving, but what it's almost like it gives you an injection of adrenaline to maybe go outside the boundaries, even if it's just for a split second or for a single lap. How about inside the car?
Yeah, it's been fun. You got to push yourself hard.
Yeah.
And learning new techniques too. This car is so different than, all the previous generations of Cup cars. So, you're having to learn new techniques. You're having to, reprogram some of that muscle memory that you have. And so it's been fun and challenging. I think that you can be aggressive with this car. The window is smaller in regards to, how far you can slide it and yaw and all that. We see a lot of guys spin out more, right? But that's also, like you said, it's given it a little bit more reward, right? Where if you go and you put it on the line and you squeeze a little bit more out of it, it's worth a bit more than it used to be, because everybody could kind of get to that limit because the cars were pretty forgiving and they had a lot of side force, and now they're not. And so I think that, it's been fun to challenge yourself and to, figure out what you need and feel, and, with the bigger tires and wheels and, just the suspension, it all feels so different that you're having to relearn that too. And so it's been good. It's been fun for me. I think that this has helped me to, people look at our team and myself as a super speedway and road courses, and which is great because that's our history. But I always knew that going to Dover and Darlington and Atlanta and those places, I'm still good there too. We just haven't had, what we've needed to showcase it. And now we're getting an opportunity to showcase it. It's not wins, but having top tens and running well is good, and it's something to build on. And I've always said this: in order to run top 5 every weekend, you got to run top 10. And if you run top 5 and you run top 10 every weekend, you are going to give yourself a shot at winning a race. You can't do it from 25th every week. And so we're putting ourselves in that position where we have a shot at it. And if we can continue to do that, who knows?
Well, there's no doubt in my mind that the reward is there. It's just dependent upon just how soon it'll come. There's only one weekend off this entire NASCAR 2022 season. So what's the honey-do list like at home?
Yeah, I try to get as much done in the off season as I can, because once our season gets rolling, even with that week off, it's you don't have much time. So, I don't mind the schedule. I mean, I'm sure, I mind it for my guys. I really do, because, being a driver in this sport, it's what you want to be. I mean, I have a lot of free time and freedom to do things during the week where they're grinding it out at the shop and they're on the weekends. And so, the schedule's grueling for them. I like the consistency of being in the car every week and getting into that momentum. So yeah, it's, this off season was shorter than most because we were testing, and we had more testing and new cars. And so that made it feel a little different this year. So I think everybody's looking forward to that off week, and you just kind of recharging. And, I think that this season has been a struggle for a lot of teams and the team guys, just because all new processes, all new parts, all new pieces, everything that you used to do is different now, from every aspect: setup plate, how you scan the cars. And so everybody's had to probably put in more hours and work harder this year than they have in years past, and learn new things. And so this is that year where everybody's kind of got their teeth kicked in a little bit, but hopefully we're into that time of the year where we have some parts now, we have some inventory built up, and it won't be grueling for the guys, through these summer months.
Where does Michael McDowell prominently display his 2021 Daytona 500 trophy?
Yeah, so when you walk in the front door, we got a little foyer there, and got a table that it sits on, so you can't come into my house without seeing it. Yeah, it's kind of its home for right now.
Well, that's okay, but I do think it's carrying it to an extreme when on the front door it says, "Please, as you enter, refer to me as champ."
That would be next level for sure.
Well, you're taking it to the next level. I do appreciate your visiting with us. Continued success, and you're going to get that checkered flag, the second one of your career, and you and your crew can celebrate like you did in Daytona. Michael, thanks so much for joining us here in the wind tunnel.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, man.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
You got it, buddy.